Are people sick of superhero movies? That is something you hear a lot nowadays. Superhero movies aren't as cool as before, and people think superhero movies are going to die like westerns. But are people really sick of superhero movies? I think the reality is that people aren't sick of superhero movies, they are sick of mediocre superhero movies. They are sick of superhero movies that force MCU style humor, MCU style comedy, try to set up a cinematic universe without telling a solid standalone story, disrespect the source material, and try to push some political agenda. They are sick of superhero movies that care more about quantity than quality. And another reality is that people will never be sick of superheroes. People don't want to give up on superhero movies. That is probably why there have been exceptions like Deadpool and Wolverine and Spider-Man No Way Home. And the interest in James Gunn's new DC universe and how Marvel will adapt Fantastic Four and the X-Men, hoping that this could be the resurgence and return for the superhero movie genre. But how did we even get here? Back then, even in the 2000s, superheroes were pretty niche and were considered dorky and nerdy and not cool. But since the 2010s, and especially thanks to Marvel, now every studio wants to make their own superhero movies and their own superhero cinematic universe. And superheroes have probably become more popular than ever since the 1960s Silver Age. And, in some ways, the 90s. While there were some bad movies in the 2010s, 2020 is when it really started to decline. And Marvel doesn't have that same spark like it did back in 2010 during Phase 2 and Phase 3. And Marvel has kind of changed course direction, now prioritizing all this diversity nonsense and not hiring writers that know the source material. And the result of this is mediocre movies that end up not doing very well with the box office and audiences. So Marvel hasn't been the same since the 2010s. And now people start to wonder whether we are now at the end of the superhero movie phenomenon. And the question is whether we will ever go back to the good old days. Will we ever go back to the glory days when superhero movies used to matter? Who knows? Maybe if Marvel realizes their mistakes and changes course direction and try to be respectful to the source material and their fans, and maybe fire Kevin Feige, then maybe it's possible. But for now, I don't know. I hope Marvel can course correct, but I kind of doubt it at this point. There is also the possibility that James Gunn's new DC universe can turn things around and be a worthy competitor to Marvel, and convince Marvel to try to make good superhero movies again. But who knows how the new DC universe will turn out. It has been proven throughout history that DC and Marvel competition has brought out the best in each other and pushed each other to be better. So, maybe history could repeat again with the movies. But as for whether people are actually sick of superhero movies, well, no. So, people are not sick of superhero movies. They are just sick of mediocre movies. Mediocre superhero movies. Because the reality is that superhero movies and superheroes in general can never die. Because there will always be a need for the superhero and the hero's journey. Because people will always look for superheroes and a source of inspiration. and they will look for a superhero movie that can inspire them and give them some hope.